That's only because, yeah.
That's only because.
It's
Thanks.
Robert Snyder.
Yeah. Right.
I'll have to show you that text message.
Sounds good.
Is he working?
Yeah, he's working. He could be here anytime. But, so, you probably got an idea of what is taking place. But the biggest thing about what I heard is that the message I heard from both the girls there was that everybody is the same. Right? Yeah, it might be a different background and it might be different words, but everybody's the same, right? And the behavior is always the same. We act out, first of all, what we understand. Second of all, what we don't understand. And the biggest problem I had was that I did not understand what I should be doing. Didn't understand who I should be, but knew full well that what I was going through in life was not fair. I knew that. And the nice part about CBT, the behavioral therapy, is that it's not for somebody who's got a life where they didn't crack their whole life. It's not for somebody who, grew up in a centered home, religious home, and they were brought up with morals and values, and actually that can cause just as many problems as somebody who's out there doing crack and meth and everything else, right? It doesn't play any favorites, right? The world is designed that we try and deal with everything ourselves. The counselors, God bless them, they're trying their hardest to make enough money to be able to live and do their family, and they've 9 times out of 10, those counselors have had issues in their own lives. It's always been said that the best social worker is somebody who's had a disaster with their kids, right? Alcoholics Anonymous, all those people, they're all very specialized in what they do. I always relate it to trucking, right? Because I've been trucking my whole life, right? If you take somebody who has never been in a truck before and you put them in a dispatch office and they've never seen a map, you got problems, right? And that's the way I grew up. I grew up in a family that did not know anything more than what they learned. And I can't blame any of them. That's the way they grew up. I had a guy tell me here not that long ago, well, there's no book that tells you how to live. And he's right. There's lots of books that are man-made that tell you a little part about how to live. It tells you a little part about what to do, right? It tells you a little part about what, for that person, worked for them. And that's all I've got. That's all the 2 girls had when they came here. It's all everybody has here is a story. So I call it qualify, right? If I can qualify myself in the facet that I'm in talking to you tonight, that's all I've got. All I've got is my story. Now, because of how I grew up, right, my story was completely warped from a little baby, right? I didn't have a chance from the very beginning. And I'm not going to get deep into that because it just doesn't matter. Everybody here has got a sad story. Everybody does, right? And also, the problem with the sad story is very rarely do you ever hear somebody get up and talk about how good things are and how good things were and what the positive things were in their life to get them where they are. It's always about, my life was a disaster, I was confused, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and I mean, you don't believe me, go to 13th Avenue, stand in front of Timmy's Angels and just listen. And anybody who knows what 13th Avenue is like here, and has sat there for very long, they will tell you what is taking place. And it's never, ever good. It's always about drama, which we all love, right? When we're not feeling good, it's really easy to go with other people that aren't feeling good and listen to what they have to say. The problem is, and the big problem I've got with it, is how many people get hurt. And there's a Tim Hortons in every town. This town, it's got the fair share, right? My goal was, and always will be, to be able to take those people, right, when they're ready, not when I think they should be ready, because I don't know, right, where they're at in their life, but they will come to you if you get healthy, if they want to change. Cognitive behavioral therapy is not for the people who need it. It's not. It's for the people that want it. It's not easy work. There's people in here tonight, Wayne will tell you, it's not easy to look at things. Darren, it's not easy to look at things and go, you know what, I got to take a look at this. And it's definitely not easy for me, right? Probably more difficult for me than a lot of people because I think I know too much. It's fact, right? And when you think you know too much, chances are you're going to have more problems. And that's where my story starts. Because I've always been one really smart guy. And I knew it. And I was always 4 steps ahead of everybody. Until such time that all of a sudden in my life, things stopped. The meltdown you're talking about, I get it. Where you get to that point in your life where you go, I can't go on anymore. I can't live anymore. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I may as well just get the biggest gun, the shiniest bullet, and just end it. Or jump off a bridge. Right? We were talking to somebody here not that long ago. He jumped off the Finley Bridge, and he was actually proud of it. He told it the story like he was on TV, telling the story about how he jumped off the Finley Bridge. To me, it was retarded. The Finley Bridge is not a place to jump off if you really want to die. If you really want to die, ask me. I'll show you where you can do it. Yeah. Problem is that those guys, and also the solution is that those guys are reaching out. Right? When you get to the point in your life where nothing, even suicide, makes any sense anymore, then you're at that place where you can look at your life and go, okay, what's it mean to me? We had a lengthy discussion on the way to Regina here a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about where I was going to start my story, because I've got a lengthy story, and you guys do not have enough ass time to be able to hear it. You don't. Judy spent 5 hours listening to me, and I'll tell you what, she knows more about the actual story than probably anybody does. Because here's what happens. I've been around a lot of people in my life with a lot of different things that have happened, and people have made up a life for me. Conjecture is the word, right? My daughter taught me that word. Didn't have a clue what it meant, but conjecture is simple. I hope I get this right, and if not, she'll correct me. It's simply the story that is made up by other people without evidence, right? And I live for that. If you thought I was an asshole and you weren't going to screw with me, I would take the story that you're telling and I would broadcast that so that you left me the hell alone. And I lived like that for years and years and years. So when we were talking about it, and we were talking about, okay, so where is the pivotal point? Where is it where my life changed? Wasn't having kids. Too busy. It wasn't having marriages. I was good at that. I'm also good at screwing them all up. Right? Because I was that smart. I had it all figured out. Right? And I never ever let my guard down right to the time where the choice was taken away from me. And I'm going to share a week of my life, right? And then I'll get to what happened since, but I'm going to share a week of my life that's become the pivotal point to everything that's happened to me this far. I'll start by saying I grew up in a dysfunctional home, which is a weak way of putting what really happened, right? Those of you who really know me know that my growing up was very simple. And I'll just tell it real simple. My dad was an alcoholic. He was very physical. He fought in World War II, and that's the way he lived his life. He was angry. He was drunk most of the time. And I say that because the man never stopped having a drink in front of him until the day he died. So, growing up like that, I don't have to fill anybody in on that. Everybody's been around people that drink alcohol, get drunk to excess, get violent. And I'll touch on my mother's side of it because it's just not fair that I didn't, because she was such a big inspiration for me. Yeah, my mother was a witch. No, I'm not kidding. I didn't say bitch. She was that too. But she was a witch. She practiced white witchcraft, black witchcraft. She actually believed it. I asked myself for a lot of years, why was she the way she was? Right? And then when I was 17 years old, I found out why. I had a brother who was 16 years old riding beside my sister on a bicycle when he got hit by a drunk driver and it killed him. Months later, my mother found out she was pregnant with me. So my mother lost one boy who was her favorite, incidentally, and she ended up with this piece of crap, according to her. Right? You used to have a picture on top of the TV, and she'd point at it and she'd say, "Why couldn't that have been you?" I never got that when I was a kid. You know, every family dinner was about what he was when he was 16 years old. They never ever got past it. I can only imagine what it was like for them having the family that they did and losing one like that and having to deal with that because there was no CBT then. There was nothing. Back then it was you sink or swim. That's the way it was. So I've learned a new respect for what they were able to do because they raised a family after that. No, they didn't do it right, as far as I'm concerned. Right? But they did. That's the other side of it. So you can imagine after finding that out when I was 17 years old, I might have been a little pissed off. Just, right? Because I always knew there was something wasn't right. But I never, ever thought for a minute that it was what it was that was wrong. I thought she just didn't like me. That made sense. The old man, he was always stressful and carried on, and he was a yeller, a screamer. Man, if I have to work for somebody like that now, I want to just throttle him. But that's who he was. Again, with CBT, it taught me that when somebody screams at me, punching him in the throat is not an option. It was for a lot of years. That was the option I had. So, at that age, at 17 years old, what do you think is going to happen when somebody finds out you are wanted? By the way, she didn't raise you, your sister did, and well, the most natural thing for me to do, having come from the country, is go to the city. What do you think's in the city? Well, you talk about getting in with the wrong people. I got in with the right people. The people that had power. The people that had drugs. The people that had booze. The people that had everything that I never had. And I'm telling you, I had fun. There was a lot of people who did a lot of hurt over it, but I had a lot of fun. I was sitting thinking the other day about this, about how many years that my parents didn't know where I was. Because we lived in Ontario, we grew up, and I had their phone number. But I figured out that it was 6 years that I never contacted them. Back then there wasn't cell phones, they couldn't, Instagram me or anything like that. They did not know where I was. Looking at my kids now, I can't even imagine that now, what that was like, right? Especially having the guilt that they had as a result of what happened. Because if I felt the pain about it, I can only imagine the excruciating pain that they went through from losing a son and then having this one become what they were. And the rest of the brothers and sisters aren't exactly well established and normal either, right? They're just not. My brothers and sisters are let's just say they've lived life very well. Not healthy, but they will. So when we were talking about this on the trip to Regina, Judy had mentioned that maybe I should start with the biggest story that I got. And that story was when everything changed. And like you, with how yours changed, like Judy with yours, right? Anybody who ends up into this and keeps it and runs with it, Wayne, you too, right? With your health and everything like that. Darren, same thing. You get to that point in your life where you're like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't want to live this way anymore, right? I don't want to fight my marriages. I don't want to fight with people anymore, right? I didn't end up in jail, and don't ask me how I didn't, only because probably there wasn't cell phones, right? And I learned something when I was young, that if I didn't tell anybody anything, nobody knew where I was, what I was doing, what I was thinking. Worst thing I ever learned in my life, until now, right? So, I went, generally, I was 4 years on the streets. I'm not talking about, going downtown and having coffee. I'm not talking about going and hanging out and spending all night with people. I'm talking physically on the streets. Not knowing where I was going to sleep for the first part, living in a water treatment facility for a long. I mean, we talk about living in places. How long have you lived in your house?
3 years.
3 years. Okay, so for 3 years he's lived in his house. For 3 years, 2.5 years of that I lived in a water treatment and lived my life from that water treatment plant in Saskatoon. Well, by the time I was 19 years old, I didn't even want to have a house, a car. I didn't want any of it because there was too much attached to it. All I knew was how my parents lived. All I knew is how these other people lived, and I knew a shit ton of people that were on the street that didn't have that, right? I learned something that nobody in this day and age ever learns when they're kids anymore, and that's respect. Because if you didn't have it, it was going to hurt. It was going to hurt bad. And it did, many times. But I learned respect. Except for respecting myself. It was never there. Never learned it. Anything else. And then after that period of time, I was at it was called Victory Living. It was a little church street mission. And the guys from the area that we hung out, there was, like, we're talking 30 people on the street. We're not talking just, me and another guy. Not many. Said that they used to go down to this coffee house during the day for free coffee and donuts. When I heard the word free, I liked that. Right? When you're living on the street, you don't have a lot of money. Right? So I went there. Little did I know that it was going to change my life forever. Right? And I'm not going to get all religious on you because I just don't do that. Religion is not a part of anything I do. Spirituality is. But religion is not. It's a man-made thing for me that doesn't work. Because if religion worked, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. Because there was a whole bunch after religion that happened in my life that had nothing to do with religion. Anyhow, I met this guy. He was a big guy, bigger than I used to be, and he had a red beard, and he was sitting in a chair. And I mean, he was a Christian guy that smoked, so we went out and had a cigarette. And of course, I was good for that because I got a cigarette off him when I went outside. And he said to me, "There's a different way of living." Well, being as you guys are all talking outside, I'll tell you exactly what I said to him. Well, fuck, if there's a better way of living, I'm interested. Let's go the whole schwab, right? So I got to talking to this guy, and he was talking about a normal life. Normal. Setting on a fucking washing machine. Normal. Right? What's a normal life for you? What's a normal life for me? There's no such thing as a normal life. There is life, but it's not normal. There's nothing normal about what anybody in this room's gone through. And each and every person in this room, right, I've met, I've talked to, sorry guys, you're not normal. You're not. You're just people. Right? And I hope you never get normal because I'll never be able to deal with you. Because I just can't. I can't relate to so-called normal people. Right? Haven't met it either, incidentally. I met this guy, and I started frequenting this place. I got nothing better to do. Living on the street, you got lots of time to do. I did work, though. I was a painter back then for Thorns Painting, and I chose not to have an apartment because it's too expensive. What was the point of having a place and paying out money when I could live there for nothing, right? So I started frequenting this place more and more. And he said to me, he said, "There's a meeting tonight, and it's a religious meeting, right?" And of course, then the only thing I heard about church from the time I was a baby till the time I grew up was slang. God damn it, Jesus Christ, and everything else was good. That's it. There was nothing else. Except for I watched my dad break a guy's finger right in two because they were fighting over a bottle of whiskey and what verse in the Bible meant. And that's the only type of religion I see. They were fighting over what this said. I can't remember what it is, what they were fighting about, but it didn't make any sense at the time. Like, all you heard was a big snap, and apparently he was wrong. Right? And that's all I knew. So this was intriguing. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. So, my daughter's here. And this is the first time that she's been down here to visit. And I've been up to visit you a couple times. And my son's here, which has a whole new story about Dad. Because he lived through a lot of the hell. Fortunately, and unfortunately in some ways, You didn't. But that night, I met her mother. Now, her mother was the person responsible for me being standing here tonight, living in an apartment that's yours.
That may be half of it.
She's responsible for that. I had no desire to live anywhere but on the street. And she was the person she was, and she said to me that God had told her that she should help me. I'm like, cool. She had big titties. I was happy. Right? That's all I cared about that. It was all I cared about. So, I met the family, right? The rest of the family right away. And to make a long story really short, I went from living on the street for just about 4 years to a week later, anybody know Saskatoon? Renaissance Hotel, honeymoon suite, right? The next Friday, up there with 2 new vehicles, a pocket full of money, and off on honeymoon in 1 week. She told me God had told her that she should marry me. I said, I'm not doing anything Friday. And that's basically the way it went down. I didn't know anything any different, but I was tired of being alone. Had no relationship with the family at all in Ontario, none. So we got married like a week later. That woman was a strong, strong person. Because I'm telling you what, after you live on the streets for 3.5 years, you're kind of a street person. And she was a very, very strong-willed person and highly educated. Engineering, right?
Library science.
Yeah. So she was a normal person, I thought. Right? Yeah. Looking back at it, normal. And surprisingly enough, when we were done the honeymoon, which I found the cheapest motel I could find for us to go to in Regina, and cockroaches showed up and everything else, but I didn't care. She was just out of her mind about it. Just crazy about the fact that you shut the lights off and they came to life, right? That was our first argument, actually, after about 24 hours of being married, is how that we needed to get a more expensive motel because there's bugs in this one. And I'm like, really? I've been living on the streets for 3.5 years. Really? Like, so, yeah, remember, I've had no money for years. And I got a pocket full of cash, like more cash than I ever dreamed of having in my life. So, we get back from the honeymoon, and I got a pocket full of cash, and I've been on the streets for 3.5 years, and I got a brand new van. What do you think the first thing I did? I went and bought a case of whiskey. A case. And I went down to the park, and I flopped open those doors, and all my buddies showed up, and we sat and drank. What a way to start a marriage. I think it was 2 days later I went back home, and of course it wasn't a big deal to me because, hell, I've been there forever, but 2 days must have been a long time for her. That's how it started. And she put up with me for a long time. But I wanted to change. I wanted something different. That was the only, the whole world's paved with good intentions, right? And I really wanted to change. So going with that, if it wasn't for your mother, I wouldn't be standing here doing what I'm doing. It's a fact. And in fact, if it wasn't for everybody in this room, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Right? And that's enough of that time, because that time, I can tell you a whole story about what happened that time, and it'd be really funny. It'd be hilarious. You've heard it. And I can go through that and take up all your time, but it's a waste of time. Because it's just like everybody else's story here. Everybody's got one, right? I can talk about my abuse. Yeah, it's important, but not in this facet. I can talk about my drug abuse. I can talk about the fact of how many times I was in jail, according to everybody else. That conjecture was great. If I've been in jail, nobody's gonna mess with me, right? I was a tough guy. Well, I'm gonna flip ahead to the most important day of my life. Because after the first marriage was when things really, really got bad. When Twyla was taken in the motorhome, and I handed a set of keys to to a guy and he said, I'm taking your wife and daughter with me and you just need to leave. And that's exactly what happened. What do you think happened then after being on the streets as long as I was? Most natural thing is go back to the streets, right? I didn't. I got a taste of what money was. I got a taste of what making money was, and I was pretty darn good at it. And I have been all through my life. So, we'll flip ahead to my next wreckage when it comes to a marriage, right? Because I really think it's important to talk about the fact, and when I talked about at the very beginning about how behavior dictates, right? Behavior dictates in this way. If I get out of one marriage and nothing changes in me, when I get in the next marriage, what do you think happens? Obviously, everything from that first marriage to the second marriage, and it doesn't matter whether that person is the best person in the world, I'm still bringing all that shit with me. And if that person doesn't have any wreckage, but I was attracted to the ones that did, right? Of course, right? I loved women that were crazy. It was absolutely great. It just pumped me right up if somebody was nuts, because I was, right? Not singling it out completely about your mother, because I'm not. Your mother either. But I liked women that would take care of me. Loved it, right? Because I never had that. My mother never did it. See the behavior? Gotta find somebody to take care of me. Gotta find somebody to take care of me. It was like that all along. Everybody crashes. Everybody gets to a point in their life where they go, enough. Some of them die. They don't get off the. We've had friends that have done that. Some of them take their own life. Some of them, by some miracle, survive and end up with Korsakoff from drinking, right? Had nothing to do with anything except for the fact that they just had that last set of drinks and it got real bad. And, you know, I know a guy who committed suicide. He was a friend of mine about 10 or 11 years ago, I think. Something like that. Philip, my best friend's son, used to hang out. And he just gave up and just kept taking pills and drinking until he fell on the floor. And I carried that fat bastard at the funeral. He was huge. I'm saying that because everybody gets to a point where they crash. And if you can imagine, I got away with everything I'd done, right? You know what Toronto's like. You know what Toronto's like. Everybody who doesn't know what Toronto's like should go visit. Because Toronto is not the place where you're not going to be tough. If you're going to hang out in the streets of Toronto, you got to be tough, right? Even Woodstock, you know. Tyler and I went on a trip a couple years ago down there for a couple weeks, and yeah, I think you got a pretty good understanding of what Woodstock was like, because that's kind of where they stop at the drug deals and do the whole thing. And of course, I got a little cousin that's just right in the middle of it, right? And his name's Bill too. Imagine that, eh? Yeah, but
We're supposed to go work out. We're supposed to go work out.
Yeah. Shit rolls downhill in families. Sorry, but that's the way it is. If your dad is a certain person, if your mother's a certain person, it's going to roll downhill. Fortunately, I got away from mine soon enough that it really got bad. Because everybody else's families are there. But getting back to my time where I crashed, it was at the very end of my marriage with Tyler's mom, who was very patient, I might add, with me. And I don't anymore hate her friggin' guts because she did what she did. If she hadn't done what she did, I wouldn't be here. It's a fact. 25 years ago, I was in a place where I was going nowhere. Nothing made any sense anymore. I was not happily married. Well, I was married, but I was not happily married. I didn't want to be married anymore. I didn't want to have kids in my life at all. I didn't want to do anything, and I met Tyler's mom, and she decided, guess what? To fix me. Oh yeah. So if your mother couldn't fix me, his mother could. Well, guess what? She lasted longer trying to fix me, right? But I got worse and worse and worse. And when she decided to take a job down south, I decided to go to the doctors because somebody had told me, from an AA meeting actually, that if I just got some medication, I'd be fine. Yeah. So I went down to this doctor in Saskatoon, and he gave me something called lithium, and he said, you're manic depressive, you got bipolar disorder, that's what you are, and I had an identity for the first time in my life. Pretty funny when I look at it now. I was nuts, right? But I had an identity. And to make it short, 31 different medications in 6 years, 5 times overdosed in the hospital. I was in and out of hospitals for the whole 6 years. And I decided to get away from here because the doctors were crazy here and go to Ontario, where the in Toronto, boy, I'll tell you what, you can get doctors there to help you out, right? So yeah, I went down there, I took the brand new car that I bought, because like I said, making money was never good, right? Brand new car I bought, and I tried to give my girlfriend, but my wife wouldn't let me. Which is another story all itself. But I took that car and I drove it all the way to Ontario, non-stop, of course, because after all, I drive a truck, right? It's wouldn't have anything to do with all the major amounts of medication I had in the car on the way down. Went to see my mother and my father, who my mother treated me so well when I went there, right? So it was all good. She said to me, I'll tell you what, you go to the doctors, you get your medication straightened out, and I will pay you to leave. Oh yeah, she'll pay my way back. I was like, cool, free trip back, right? My mother never gave me nothing. A free trip back was a good thing. Went to the doctors. The nurse was a girl that I went to school with, and public school and high school, and she took one look at me and she said, you know what, I don't even recognize you. Like, I was a fairly large person by then already, and I was miserable and angry, like more angry than anybody I've ever met so far. And so they took me off all the medication, and they slapped me on 3 other ones, right, to the Royal Victoria Hospital. They knew what they were doing. And my mother gave me the money like she said she was going to do, and I jumped back in that car, and I got to Dryden, Ontario, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in the middle of the road with a police car behind me with lights flashing. Guess who's for? I don't like this kind of streets. That's kind of where I came to. So I rolled down the window, and he says to me, and I remember this, he said, where were you? And I tried to talk, and I couldn't. It was just like, right? Have you been drinking? Right? I was just done. I'd taken every pill they gave me. And there I was. He said, I'm going to have to charge you with impaired driving. I'm thinking, fuck, I hadn't drank in like years. Drinking was never a big issue for me, so I never drank in years, but he's going to charge me with impaired driving. I said, you can't do that. I've been drinking. He said, no, you're impaired. Right? So they stick me in the back of the police car. You know, I'm a tall guy. Anybody been in the back of the police car with that metal piece there? Yeah. So we must have been I was in the back of that car for because they had to get a tow truck and haul the vehicle off in the snowstorm to the side of the road. And he drives me into the Husky truck stop, right, in Dryden, and or Nepegon, pardon me, not Dryden, Nepegon.
Don't eat there either.
Yeah. So yeah. But anyhow, we go there, and he opens up the door, and he says, "Come on, we're gonna go talk." And what do? My legs are asleep. I face plant, like just right now, smashed in the pavement. So I'm bleeding now, on top of it all. I'm sick. I threw up a carton of milk all over the car, right? So yeah, I guess I was impaired, right? So I'm thinking, I'm going to jail. And my biggest fear at that time was going to jail because, in there, I know all the guys that were there out on the street before they went there. They weren't exactly nice guys. So my biggest fear was going there. He sits me down, after we got some feeling back in my legs, because down in there, I was, I couldn't feel my legs. He takes me into the Nipigon Husky truck stop and buys me breakfast and says, "Give me your wife's number and I will phone her and let her know that you're going to be coming back and we'll go that direction." So I'm starting to get coherent then. She phones Tyler's mother and she says, "I don't want that." Like, I couldn't figure out that. I was like, well, that hurt. Why would she not want me back? Couldn't figure it out. So he says to me, "She doesn't want you back." And I'm like, well, I'm going back anyway because I'm the man, right? I know what to do, right? She's going to listen to me when I get back. And it was going to be her birthday a couple days later. And of course, I've always liked to travel, right? So he says to me, "If you promise never to take another pill, right, for the rest of your life," he said, "and go and get yourself some help," he says, "I'll let you go." All I heard was "let me go." That's all I heard, right? So he bought me breakfast. He called my ex-wife. She said she didn't want me back, but I'm going back anyway. And because I'm a rebel, right, I decide I've got so much money left, just enough to get across, I'm going to go down through the States, right, to get back, because it's cheaper on fuel, right? That was smart. I had a Ford Festiva. Yeah, cheaper on fuel. $900K a tank, $30 to fill it up. But I was all worried about that, right? Now, I taken all my medication, everything, by the time I got there to Nipigon, right? What kind of shape do you think I was in the next day after driving all night, right? So I'm thinking I'm really losing it here. I get across the border and they're saying, "Well, why do you want to go this way?" I'm saying, "Well, it's cheaper on fuel," and everything else like that. And I just wanted to get home. So this is where the story gets interesting, because I really thought I was hallucinating. Like, really thought. And I said, something has to impact you. Something pivotal has to happen in order for you to want to change. It does. So the first thing is I'm driving number 2 across Michigan, right? And you've been on that road, right? You know what that's like. It's all curvy and everything. And I fueled up with fuel, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm driving along, and this bird swoops down in front of me, and I just hammers on the brakes, right? Didn't think about maybe having a nap. Oh no, that's, it didn't even cross my mind, right? Shake it off, start driving again. Get down around, I'm like nodding off and everything else like that. And of course, I'm coming off the medication, and of course, you can bet I hadn't eaten since I left Ontario, except for the breakfast, right? Other than that, nothing. Yeah, and it wasn't that good either, right? So I'm driving along, and I don't know what the time frame is, but I'm guessing it's an hour and a couple deer, right? One goes right in front of me, like this, slams on its hooves, man. Like right now, it looks at you, right? And I slam on the brakes, and I'm looking at it, and it's like it's freaking smiling at me. It's like, remember the deer yesterday? Remember the deer yesterday? Okay. So anyhow, I'm like, okay, I'm really fucking losing it. And I've done a lot of good drugs, but this, I'm like, I've never, this is stupid. Again, no thought of pulling over and going to sleep. Oh no, I had to get back because it was your mom's birthday. So, off I go again. And I know this road fairly well. I've been on it in a truck many times at that point, right? And all of a sudden, what happens? The cherries come on, right? I'm already into Montana by this time. I'm number 2. And I'm coming down, and the cop pulls me over. Of course, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm going to pull over. I got no guns with me. That was a good thing. And because I had carried guns before that, but not on this trip. So I pull over, and this cop walks up. You ever seen that TV shows where the cop's got the flashlight like this, and his face is all bright? That's what it looked like, right? And I'm thinking, okay, now I'm losing it, right? Now in Montana, up until a few years ago, all you got was a $5 environment charge if you were speeding. Didn't matter how fast you were going, so that's what I think I'm paying, right? It's at $5. the cop says to me, he says, well, you know how fast you're going? I went, no, not at all. Didn't have a clue, and I was tired. Like I was just, and he goes, well, he said, you're going way over the speed limit, and you're kind of wearing around back and forth and stuff like that. He said, I said, so what's this going to cost me? And I'm thinking to myself, $5, right? I've got that, right? I got my pocket. I'm ready to go, right? No, he said, it's going to cost you $46 US in this Baylor jail. If you don't have that money, you're going to jail. I reached in, grabbed my wallet out, I had $46 in it. And I looked at him and I went, how'd you know that? And he goes, what? I said, that's all I got. I said, how am I supposed to get gas to get back, right? He goes, well, I'll make a deal. He said, if you pull ahead, smart cop, right? He said, you pull ahead, you pull over here, and you go to sleep, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch you, and you go to sleep, then guess what? He said, I'm not going to give you a fine or nothing, but you have to get some sleep. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this time the thought of sleep happened, right? So I pulled off to the side of the road, I put the seat back, and I went to sleep. And I don't know how long I slept, but when I woke up, it was daylight, and I put my head up, and there was a complete turn that went to the left with rocks behind it. If he hadn't pulled me over, I probably wouldn't be telling the story. Going that fast, I had never made the corner. So, the funny thing about that flashlight thing on the face, when he pulled out behind me, it didn't look like the flash of blue and red, right? It was kind of like a greeny, hazy shit that just didn't make any sense. So I think, now I'm really hallucinating, right? I'm completely lost. Next day I wake up, I'm like shaking my head, scratching like this, like what the hell just happened last night? Right? Pulled away to the cliff, and the first thing I saw was those rocks. I'm like, you know what? I'd have died. I was like, I had that Festiva right to the floorboards all the time. That's the way I drove. So I get across the border, and of course they did have cell phones by this time already, but they weren't real nice ones. I called his mother, and she said, when you come back, Armand, a great big native guy that I know, not Wigger, native. Great big guy, and he was huge. He was 500 some pounds.
Very different day.
She had said that he wanted to get a hold of me, and I had to phone him as soon as I got into town, right? And that she had a surprise for me when I got there. Cool. I like surprises, right? It's a birthday, after all. That's my thing, right? It's a birthday. I called up Armin, and he said, look, I have to take you out to Brockett Indian Reserve, and I got to take you as soon as you get back, and do not come into town. I'm like, okay. Well, we'll go with this. So, because I respected the man. The guy lifted up the back quarter panel of a Chrysler Cordoba while Leroy changed the tire. Respect. He had knives, lots of knives. We used to go riding on the motorcycles together. And he showed me this knife that said, "It's like a paring knife," and he cut me. That kind of respect. He said, "I need to meet you now." He said, "And that's all there is to it, but don't come to town." I'm like, "What's this don't come to town shit?" So I met him in Kip. Right? Once I left. He doesn't let me go very far. He says, "I'm going to follow you, and if you turn off, I'm going to chase you down, I'm going to shoot you." All right. This guy you don't mess with. I see him, we were riding one time on motorcycles, and a guy pissed him off, he kicked his front tire right from underneath him. And didn't even slow down. Just, that's the kind of guy he was. So out to the Brockett Reserve we go. Got my helmet on, right? Going out there, in the car, you know, I'm ready to go face this guy, right? Because I'm going to see this girl, his wife's at the time, her grandfather, who was a medicine man out in Brockett. I'm thinking this is going to be a hoot, right? Me going to a reserve. Different than the Hurons, right? I'm expecting anything. I get out of the vehicle, and I went to take my ball cap off. He says, "Don't take it off." I said, "Why?" He said, "He'll scalp you." That's what he said to me. You know, and I'm like, I've never been around those type of Indians before, right? So Armin takes me in. Armin closes the door, slams it, lights a smoke, and he says, "You won't be coming out for a while." I'm like, all right. So I go in there, and you have to remember the trip I was just on. I didn't go home first. I'd just been through all that stuff. And that man sat across from me and he said, I got something to tell you. I said, yep. What's that? He said, well, I want to talk about your trip. I said, what trip are you talking about? Like, he said, I want to talk about the trip you just came on. I'm like, okay. You mean the hallucinating trip that doesn't make any fucking sense to me at all? Trip, that one? Yeah. So he sat down across from me, unbeknownst to me, knowing the whole story about what happened. Right? He told me what the birds were all about, what they meant to me, and how I should pay attention to them whenever I see them. He was talking about direction. He told me about the deer, and he said the deer is always going to be your animal, and when you see one, you're going to know you're on the right path. We saw two yesterday. They don't run out in front of me like the other one did. They don't smile anymore. That's a good thing.
Oh, they did smile.
No smile. But whenever I see one, I get this stupid ass grin on my face because the man was right. Okay? So then he talked about police. Now let's face it, the life that I lived, police were not my favorite people. I did more running from them than I did to them. Right? I was always a step ahead of them. I was smart, remember? So this medicine man says to me, he says, now let's get back to the story. And he said, the police. And I'm like, how does this guy know this shit? And like, and he said, the police are always going to be a symbol for you that you're making the right decision about where you're going. Blair Snyder? A lot of people that are my friends now, some of them are police officers. Sorry, guys. Some of them are. And 9 times out of 10 when I talk to them, they tell me where I'm going to go next and what I'm going to do. Right out of the blue. Now remember, this medicine man, he's this fucking tall. He looked like 100 years old, and he's sitting there telling me this story. Yeah, sure, you. But no, he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm losing it, right? Like, how does this guy know this? So me being me, I said to him, look at asshole. Okay, I don't know where you got this information from. I said, there's no cameras in here, so you better tell me. And he said to me this, and I never forgot, and I use it all the time when I help people, because that, he said, it's a gift. He said, it's not from that God you guys talk about. He said, but there's something in this, and how did he put it? Something in the universe that explains to me what I need to explain to you. I think I've said that to you. Yeah. There's something in this universe that helps me to be able to see what you see, what you need to hear. I was like, this guy's retarded, right? Like, this guy is, like, he came from Toronto down and blew it up. Really. Like, this guy, he was just out there. So I go up to Armin and I said, you got smoke? This guy's crazy. He said, no, you should listen to him. I'm like, okay, Armin. Back in, because Armin was the guy. He said, you go finish listening to him. So I went back in, and he said to me this. He said, you're going to leave here? He says, and all these things that you've seen, on the way back to your home tonight, you're going to see them again. So I'm like, yeah, right. You're losing it, I'm thinking, right? He said, and Armin's going to follow you, and the last people you're going to see in this state of mind on this earth, unless you make some changes, are the police. And I'm like, oh, this guy's been right about everything else. This is not good. So, Armin comes behind me. I drive back to Lethbridge, where his mom is waiting with the police, and they put shackles on me. On the way there, I seen the birds fly by. I see the deer on the side of the road, and I'm like, up you, I'm going home. It's her birthday tomorrow. I get there, and I get around the corner, and there's cops driving. There's cops everywhere. And they came to me, and they said, are you going to go willingly? I'm like, go where? I didn't do anything. Right? And they said, I have this letter here. It was a yellow piece of paper. I don't know where the hell it is now. I wish you could find it because it's got to go. And he said, can you read? He said. I said, yeah, I learned that when I was 19. Thanks, asshole. But I can read, right? And I did. I was 19 years old and I learned how to read, right? Because I was pushed through school. So I read this, and I'll never forget, it was in big, bold letters, typed in, not even written in the lazy bastards. It said, William Paul Andrew Sanford, incapable of functioning in society without 24-hour supervision, must go to Panoka and remain there for the rest of his life. It was 25 years ago. I'm like, Panoka, that's for fucking crazy people. Like, not a thought that maybe it was one, right? With all the things I've been doing. So I'm like, my thought is to run, right? Because that's the best thing to do when the cops are there. But there was enough of them with guns, and I didn't like guns, especially when I didn't have one. And so they arrested me, and his mom came out and said, "This is the best thing for you." What do you think I thought? When these cuffs come off, you're going down. And I held on to that for a long time afterwards. Off to Panoka, in the back of a police car, handcuffed the whole way until we got to Beauclair's home, and they said, "Are you going to jump out of the car?" I'm like, "You guys got the locks. Like, I can't get out of this car." He said, "Well, you could smash the window." I said, "What did they tell you about me? You think I'm crazy? You're going to shoot me if I leave here, right?" So they took the handcuffs off Beauclair's home. Really uncomfortable. And, of course, that nice metal piece. Yeah, it was awesome. So there I was, on my way, the longest trip I've ever made in my life. In the back of a police car, and everybody, don't tint the windows back then, right? It was all clear, everybody knew who it was. I get into Panoka, and I'm like, I'm screwed. I knew I was screwed, right? So when you go into a place like that, it's just like going into jail. You get a strip search, you get all the things, you gotta make sure you have no weapons, everything like that. Even though the retarded part of it, I just rode from Lethbridge all the way there in a police car. If I'd had a gun, you think I would have shot him? Like, really? At that point, right? So they take me inside, I'm sitting there, and there's a plastic room. It's all plastic, right? And 2 plastic chairs, and they sit me in there. And you gotta remember, I've only been off 31 different medications for about 4 days. I'm not feeling that good, right? And this guy comes out, and the first thing is they send in 2 of their armed guards. You know, the tiny little guys with security inside, those guys? Yeah, you know, the guys that are 4 years old and wish they were a cop, those guys? They send in with this girl, real pretty girl, that was okay, right? And she takes my blood. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm screwed now, right? They bring me an outfit to wear. Not like the hospitals here. They've actually got cool outfits in Panoka. Nice colors, they're great, comfortable. And I sat there, it seemed like forever before this guy, this old fart who thinks he knows everything type of guy sits across me, right? And there's a plastic between him and I want to kill him. That was the first thought in my mind. I'm going to kill this guy if I get a chance, because I'm in here for the rest of my life. I've got nothing to lose. I didn't care anymore. You want to talk about a feeling? When you've got nothing to lose, you're in there for the rest of your life, killing a person is not a big deal. It doesn't matter, right? And I was just a little angry about this point. She just signed a piece of paper saying I was going to be in there for the rest of my life. The cops brought me there. He sits across me, and he's got, on his thing, it says Dr. Stevenson was his last name, and it said, CBT extraordinaire. Who the fuck puts extraordinaire on doctor's uniform? I'm like,
You would.
and I'm the guy fucking. Yeah, I would. CBT extraordinaire. It was a pilot project that, you know, getting to what it was a pilot project for Panoka. They'd never tried it before, and this guy offered to do this program free. And I was like, he's sitting there and he's got that, and I'm looking, I can't get this extraordinary thing out of my mind when I'm sitting there. And I said to him, I said, you're a fucking goof. He said, I might be, but you're here for the rest of your life. So who's the goof? Is what he said. And of course, he's got in plastic. I can't get out, but I wanted to. Right? So I'm sitting there, and he's telling me, he says, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I'm like, buddy, give me the good news first, because the bad news is going to kill you. I'm coming through that plastic. Right? And I meant it. Didn't have nothing to lose. Didn't matter. But I guess I had that figured out. That was a plastic thing. You know, that plexi thick shit that you can't even hardly talk to. And of course, my hearing's really good, so you can imagine. What'd you say? Yeah, through the little hole, right? So he says to me, he said, there may be a chance you can get out of here one day. And that's all I heard. All I heard was one day. So that day was going to be tomorrow for me, right? Because I'm smart. Didn't realize how smart I was until he told me how stupid I really was. Right? That happened about 2 days later. But anyhow, he said, you must take this program for 90 days. Like, not doing anything else. Kind of stuck here. He said, you can't go outside, and I always, everybody knows I love to smoke, right? I mean, let's face it, you tell me I can't smoke, and you do have a nutcase in my hands. So you can't smoke, you can't leave the building, you can't have any visitors. I started to fucking laugh. I said, my fucking old lady just put me in here and signed a paper for the rest of my life. How many people are going to come visit? Like, really? Nobody, right? So he says, you take this program, and I promise you, that you'll feel better. Well, I've never heard that in my life at that point. Promise me I'll feel better? Because the one thing my whole life is I never felt good ever. Oh, I got happy. I got stoned. I got liquored, but I never ever got happy. Never happened. Now, if you take the past years of everything I've been through and having somebody say, you know, you're going to be happy, it's like, yeah, right, whatever, right? But he promised me. And nobody ever promised me nothing. It was never something I'd ever heard out of anybody's lips. And if I ever made a promise, by God, I had to stick with it. And you know what? I couldn't. Good intentions just don't, you know, promises, good intentions don't work, right? So he's there, and I'm going to make it a lot shorter, the time I was in there, but obviously I'm standing here, and they're not coming to get me. It's Sunday. They're not. Not on weekend pass, not on weekly pass. Still a little crazy, hopefully. Otherwise, I won't be able to deal with any of you, especially you. The realm of the story goes like this. I'll make it shorter, because I don't know how much time I've taken, nor do I care. But I'm going to tell you this. I went into those groups, and I did not want to be there. But I knew I was defeated. I knew I wasn't feeling good. And the more I was off that medication, by God, that week, 2 weeks afterwards, I was a nutcase. Started going into these groups, and this guy was relentless. You know, he'd say, he'd right out, and I mean, I was a tough guy, right? You don't fuck with me. And we're in an open group about this size with 12 people, and he's just jabbing me, like, you know. Just giving it to me. And I said to him one day, I said, is there anybody else? He said, I'm picking on you because you think you're tough. And I clicked. It was like, you're going down, and I'm not behind plastic anymore. And I went to get up. And he said, you can get up. He pointed right, he said, you can get up. He said, you can come and kick the shit out of me, but it's not going to change the fact you're an asshole. And I went, whoa, I got respect for this guy. This guy is God, right? Like, this guy's, you know what that is? True deer. So I guess he took a little special interest in me because I was just a little crazy, right? So I guess he figured, like I figured with all you guys, if I get the worst of mess that happened here, I'm in good shape. I'm kidding. But I'm sure he thought that, though. That if I could take this guy down, and remember, this is a pilot project, right? And he's not charging for it, so he wants to get. So he has this plan in his head, unbeknownst to me, about what was going to happen. And I had no clue. I was a sitting duck. He was way smarter than that. Make a long story short, 3 months later, I had an opportunity. Actually, 2 months later, I got an opportunity to go to school with him. He brought a cigarette package with him. Let's go for a smoke. Comes in, you're fucking with me, buddy. Like, there's no way. Like, this is not even nice, I said to him. I've had smoke this long, and now you're going to say if you have a smoke and it goes psych? Like, there was no way, right? So he, went outside that day. The first time I went outside the building in 2 months. Had a cigarette. And then he offered me a second one. And I was already really dizzy from the first one. But I had it anyway because I was a free man. And by this time, I'd learned, and I've always been a good person. So I thought, right? So I always wanted to help people. So I started helping people. I took what I was learning there and helped the new people that were coming in, because Ponoka's a revolving door. There's enough crazy people. It's a revolving door. But also there was people there that the drummer from Bachman Turner Overdrive that had a hole right through his head from the aileron, right? And you could see right through his skull. And if you remembered, he could play drums and everything else like you wouldn't believe. Play guitar and everything else. And then all of a sudden he'd stop dead, and he wouldn't be able to remember anymore. Nicest guy you ever meet. And then the next day, he'd meet you again, not know who the hell you were. And you'd start all over again, right? Guys like that I'll never forget. But I was able to, for the first time, have a purpose in my life, right? And talk to people. And so it started after a couple months, right? It started to a point where I wanted to help people, right? So he gave me an opportunity. One day he says to me, we're in the group, and he said, well, Bill, he said, I actually went by Paul back then. He said, you go ahead and take care of this group. I've got to go and have a smoke. I'm like, fuck, really? You want to go have a smoke? And I'm going to stay here with the group? Like, well, how about I go for a smoke? And you take care of the group. Well, he says, oh, no. He says, you'll be fine. So he gets up and leaves. Come back at the end of the group. Right? The next day, he was joking with me about the smoke, and he said, go have one. I'm like, yeah, right, this is a trick, right? I go out that door, and these 4 little pumps are going to jump me. Security guards, because they had to go with me, of course. Right? Not shackled, though. Went out with me, went out and had my cigarette. Now, what do you think 4 little security guards, a guy my size, these guys are this tall, right? What do you think is going to happen when I see it daylight and I get the first opportunity to get the hell out of there? First thought on my mind was run like hell, take them all with you. And then the rest of the thoughts come. You're right? Yeah. Okay. Then you get to the point where, okay, well, if I do run, I'm going to be in these handcuffs again, and I'm going to be in jail. And I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to remain here anyway. So what's the sense of running? So after 90 days, you have a clause where you have to go back in, and they look at your situation and stuff like that and decide whether you're going to stay for the rest of your life or the one after. Right? In my case, it looked like the one after still had. But he told me there's a chance you can get out of it. He also told me that if I taught this thing, if I gave it away, I'd be able to keep it. Didn't know what that meant. Didn't. He also taught me that he could trust me because he sent me out for a smoke and I came back. But then the big test happened the following month when I could go outside on my own to have a cigarette without the security guards, which was nice because they were friends I didn't need. Right? And I'd go out for a smoke and stuff, and I'd stand there thinking the whole time, I could just walk. Right? And then the next thought would be, yeah, but you're out here having a smoke, and you can leave and go back, and you can go back and have another smoke. So if I did this, guess what? I'm going to be back inside here again. I'm never going to get to leave. He told me I had to stay 9 months, the first thing. And I'm like, 9 months? That's nothing. The rest of my life, that was a long time. But 9 months? So I've had to put this story together because you have to remember that during that time, I'd just come off all those medications. I wasn't thinking really clearly, and I was just a little angry. So my thinking about the actual timeline was kind of screwed up for a long time. But now I think I got it figured out, but it might change tomorrow. Right? But 9 months was the number that I remember about the fact that I had to be there 9 months before they released me. Right? So, I mean, this is home for me now. I mean, you give anybody, 90 days in the same place, they're going to feel like it's home. Right? So they have these field trips. Now you have to understand, Red Deer and me go back a long way. So I've got lots of friends in Red Deer. I've got family in Red Deer. And we got a trip to go to the Stampede in Red Deer. And I get to drive the bus. Oh, yeah. So he throws me the keys and says, go get the bus. And come on back, we'll load these guys up, we'll go. He throws me the keys. I'm outside, and I gotta walk behind the tree line to get the keys. What do you think the first thought was? I'm out of here. Like, I'm gone, right? I get to where the tree line was, and it went, wait a minute. I can run now and get to the road real easy. Yeah, the van, maybe take the van this time, right? So I jump in the van, and I turn the key, and it just left. I realized that I had to go take those people because they were more important than running. It's the first time in my life anybody ever became more important because I remembered those guys. They were helping me as much as I was helping them in the group. So I got to be Star Taxi driver for the crazy people in the Red Deer, right? And yeah, blue vans, tinted windows with Paducah Hospital outside of it. Oh yeah, but my window wasn't tinted. Oh no, right? So yeah, I did that for quite a while, and then I got to the point where I was teaching the group every day, right? So because of the cognitive behavioral therapy at that time was really new to Canada, he got certified, and I'm not talking about certified to be in Paducah. I thought when I first met him he deserved to be there, just like I was, but he got certified to teach it. So he said to me, he said, I can get you certified to teach this. And I'm like, you fucking crazy. Like, do you realize what I've been through in my life? Like, you want to certify me to teach something like this? Are you crazy? He goes, maybe, but with a guy with your past, you can help a lot of people. And I was like, okay, fine. So I learned how to teach it. I learned how to hold groups like we do, you know, every other week or whatever we do. I learned how to run those, and I learned how to speak like this, right? And then I got certified in a whole different way because I was still certified. It's funny because I'd say I got 2 certifications at once. I was certified to be in there for the rest of my life, and then I was certified to do this. So it's kind of an oxymoron there, right? What do you think? But I was. Before I was ever decertified to be able to lead there, I was certified to teach this. And then I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. I'd been there for 6 months by this point. And all I did every day was get up and help people. And I felt good about that. So even when they told me I could leave, which was earlier than 9 days, I didn't. I stayed. And I stayed for a couple of months after that, I think. Like I said, it's a little foggy, but I stayed for a couple months after that. Reconciling with my ex-wife was not going to happen. I was just a little angry with her for certifying me to stay there for the rest of my life. Just, what's my nose? The first day pass, we'll call it day pass I got, I had already bought a vehicle because they were giving me a little bit of money through the government, and I wasn't spending it in there, right? So I bought a van, a camperized van, because I was planning my trip, right? I had who I was going to kill and everything else all mapped out, right? I did. That's the way it was. And the first stop was Lethbridge, right? Because she had done the unthinkable. That was it. I was done with that woman. My big buddy Don Kress, you know him, and Alita knows him. Don was the guy who helped me stay sick for a long time, right? He's still a very good friend of mine, but he helped me stay sick for a long time because that man was a good liar. Like oh my God, I used to work with him, and he used to tell my wife that I stayed in for an extra week so I could be with the girls at the restaurant the whole time I was home. He was a good liar for me. He kept me sick for a long time. Still a good friend of mine. I don't spend a lot of time with him now, right? But when I got to Lethbridge, he met me. And he said, you can't be here. He said, you're going to kill him. And he was right. That was my first stop. And my second stop was Wetaskiwin, where my brother was, the one that's actually abused me for years. He was next. And I had a list. Now remember, I've been teaching this stuff for months while I was filling out the list of who I was going to pop. That's because you don't get healthy right away, right? He convinced me not to stay that day, but I did go to Wetaskiwin. I couldn't find my brother, right? If I had him, again, I might not be doing it. the thoughts I'm doing now because I hated that man with a passion. The only good part about that is that when you do all the things through behavioral therapy, you write letters to people and you tell them, that, hey guys, you did this to me. It's not a joke. It did hurt me, and you're not fooling me one little bit. And then you got two piles of Pinoca. One goes to mail, right, because you got to have the addresses on them, and one goes to not mail. Well, I threw his in the wrong slot, and it got mailed to him. Yeah. So my relationship with my brother went, and it still is. He still won't look me at. That letter was perfectly, exactly what CBT does. It takes it and says, you know what? You did this to me, and I know you did it to me, and I know it was wrong. And that's one of the things it does. Right? When you can tell somebody they did you wrong and not have a response out of that, just because you told them they did wrong, then that's something that's really strong. Right? So back to the healthy part of my life. 25 years of actually getting to the point where I was healthy enough to get healthy. That might make no sense at all now, but it'll make a lot of sense when I'm done this. When I met my last wife, because I was good at wives, right? She's here. I was at a point where I would do absolutely anything to get healthy. Absolutely anything, including ruin everybody's life around me to do it. And I literally was on a mission to go back driving truck, was the first thing I wanted to do, right? And of course, I don't know about anybody who knows anything about maintenance enforcement, but if you don't pay them for long periods of time, they will put you in jail. And you will have to pay them regardless. And that's where my life was at that point. And we're talking like a lot of years after I'd been out of coach already. And we're trying to get, first of all, my license had a nice C clause on it that I could only drive for 4 hours at a time, right? With no class 1, because they take that when you're nuts, right? Right? They actually took my whole license at one point. So we went to work on getting my license back. And the best way to do that is to get lawyers, get them involved on the misdiagnosis, because they said I was misdiagnosed. And it was literally, I could not get my license back. I could not make my class 1 back. Nothing was happening. So we wanted to, the lawyers said that they would have to destroy my whole family, because my parents were still alive at that time. And my brother was still in my life at that time. They would have to go through everything that ever happened to me from the time I was a little boy, your mother, everybody else included, and interview all of them in order to get the lawsuit and win the money. And I would have. I'd have won it. And I'd never have to worry about money ever again, because the lawsuit was open. But what I really wanted was to get on with my life. Making money was never an issue. Never was. Still isn't. If I really want to make it, I just go make it. Right? But they decided, in their infinite wisdom, that there was a way that I could get my license reinstated and having the C taken off my license and have my complete medical history erased overnight. I was like, that's not possible. Well, is it possible? One enter key. I'm telling you, one enter key changed my life forever. It went to the lawyers. It went to the motor vehicles branch. The next day I went in. They fired my name in. Nothing there for medical history. No C's. Right? And I could go get my class 1 back right away. Overnight. So if you think it's not possible, it is. I had a 6-year medical history. 6 years of complete disaster. 6 years of being in the hospital. And they punched it up at the hospital, and there was nothing there. Nothing. Clean slate. So I went from my second name to my first name, which was my dad's name, which I honored the man, even though he was a complete bastard his whole life. But I honored him because he taught me one thing that was so important, still important, will always be important, is he taught me how to work. Taught me how to bust my ass and work and how I can be proud of that. Well, all of a sudden, I go get my class 1. Back driving 20 years. Or 17 for sure. Right? Overnight. Enter key. Done. That's what this world's become. Right? So if you take a guy who's been out of the nut ward, I always call it, right, for as many years as I was, and put him into a transport truck, you think he's coming home? No. Nay. No way. There's no way I'm coming home. And that's what I did. I just drove. And whenever there was a problem, it was in the rearview mirror. I forgot what he told me. I forgot what Neil told me. Neil told me the only way I was going to be able to keep this is to give it away. Another crash coming, right? Another crash coming. Not only did I just about die 3 times over the last 5 years, right? My health has taken a real ass kicking. I've done all the things I needed to do, including losing the weight, which I've got pictures. Right? And it just, anybody wants to see pictures about how big I was before, if you haven't already seen them, I think everybody has. But I don't think you have, Derek. Right? I was a fair-sized man, you can say. 385 pounds, 5XL jacket, 54-inch waist, and really, really angry. Really angry. All the CBT in the world would not change the fact that I was angry. If you're not going to work it. If you're not going to change it. If it's not good. The problem with CBT is this. I'm going to warn absolutely everybody here. And I have with some of you. You work this program. You help other people. I promise you, it'll change your life. Or I wouldn't be standing here. I promise you also that you're going to get happy. Right? Right? Right?
Absolutely.
Right? Right? You've even experienced it. You're going to get happy. Here's the problem with that. Everybody else, Timmy's Angels included, right? Every one of them are not going to understand. You can talk to somebody about CBT and they look at you like you're on crack. Oh, you got 15 people in the building, you shot your big boat onto that lot? You must have sold dope. My favorite one of those is I've been sleeping with everybody in the building. That's my favorite one. I'm good at that. I wish I had the time, folks. I really do, but I don't. Right? And the fact that you're doing your mother was not the best thing. That was funny.
Yeah, you did mine too.
Yeah, I know. For hours and hours I did yours, I know, yeah. But fact of the matter is people don't get it. Don't expect them to. They won't, right? But the promise is still the same. I don't know of one person in this room, everybody that I know, I don't know one person in this room that I can say has not changed some way or some thinking because I had my mouth blabbering. But you know what? I can also say it had dick to do with me. Nothing at all had to do with me. You did the work. 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 You all did the work. Right? It's not about me. I'm just the guy who came. There was a nutcase from Panoka, right? That has a story to tell. That's the qualified I was talking about. Right? I don't care if you want it. What I care about is that you care about each other. That's all I care about. And boy, I'll tell you what, when it comes to this town and the people in it, right, there's a lot of caring that needs to be done, right? So if we can start small and we can build that up, right? This foundation fucking near killed me. It did. To have this many people here, the work that I put into it myself, friggin' near killed me. It did. But you know what? What a way to go. When I see smiles on people's faces, when I see my kids, this girl right here, 26 years. 26 years I never saw her. 26 years she's been told who I'm not. 26 years, right? All of a sudden I get an email one day and it's like, really? This ain't fair. Getting an email like that. Medical history, I think was what it was for.
Yep, I asked you for a medical.
My other daughter had contacted her, said I'm very much alive, because of course religious people, when you're dead, when you're not doing the religion thing, you're dead to the world. Period. Right? And that's what it was like. My son back there, boy, I'll tell you what, there's a guy who's seen the best of me. He's watched me go through in the last 20, just about 1 years. Right? He's watched what's gone through. And he's had to learn that there's a place to go from and there's a place to go to. Right? We went for breakfast, the three of us, for the first time in our lives. All three of us, just the three of us, went for breakfast. That's a friggin' miracle. It don't matter what anybody else says. That's a miracle. I got drunk the other night. Total. Liquored. Friggin' women. Tried to get me drunk. Take advantage of me. Yep. The person that took advantage of me was my daughter till 5 o'clock in the morning, talking to me until I was sober. It sucked. Because she knew that if she talked to me all the way through, I would shut the fuck up eventually. Right?
Not until I told you to. Not until I told you to.
You missed me being drunk.
I'm stocking up on beer, that's all I have.
No, beer wouldn't do it.
No.
A lot of twisted tea. But when I look over what's happened in the last 3 months, 3 months, the changes in my life, the changes in the people around me's lives, the new people that are coming into it, I don't care whether you want it or not. I don't. I got it. Sorry, folks. I'm happy. I don't know anybody who read my post today. Good news is I'm happy. Bad news is you're not. To the people that are skeptical. I have a host of people working against me every day to be able to stop this from happening. A host. You see them. Right? You definitely see them. You see them. You see them. You probably even see them. You're one of those girls I'm sleeping with, by the way.
Sweet.
Okay, you're next.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy. We had this conversation earlier. Oh, buddy. But no, it's, you know what? The fun part about this is that it is fun. There's a lot of pain in this room. A lot. You know, if I can get serious for like a couple minutes, because I don't like being serious, I was rigid serious for a lot of years. It caused me a lot of problems. Because after all, the only way I could get happy was to remain absolutely everything in my life exactly the way it's supposed to be. Fuck that. No more. No more. I can't control everything anymore, can I, Judy? Had this conversation on that same trip. Boy, that trip was great. Talked about the fact that I had to get out of the way. Me, the guy who's doing this, has to get out of the way and allow people to love me. Yeah, that's not going to start a rumor. That's not going to start a rumor at all. But you know what's true? I've been allowing myself to become vulnerable in many different ways. Thank you, by the way.
Absolutely, over there.
This is not just for you. This is as much for me as it is for you. Right? I can sit up here and blow smoke up your ass all day, you can make rings. You can. But the bottom line is, it's about all of us. And it's about the fact that all of us are tired of hurting. All of us are tired of being in pain. All of us are tired of the sick friggin' relationships we've been in for years and years and years. And you know what? This whole love thing is awesome. But it's got to be a choice. Please, don't tell me you fell in love. It's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. Feeling love is one thing. Choosing to get up every day and love you, and you, and you, and you, and you, that's all that matters. And you. Even you.
I noticed you missed Tyler in that pointing session.
I just went like that.
Oh, okay.
But no, choosing to get up and love people each day, that's where it's at. Right? People say, why do you do that? Doesn't it get... That's my favorite one. That happened a couple weeks ago. I had a guy say to me, don't you get crazy dealing with crazy people all the time? Like, yeah. Like, they are crazy, you know, and this guy's, you know. This guy is one of Timmy's angels. This guy's one of those guys who's tough. Support. Support your little you know, and he says to me, don't you get tired of dealing with crazy people? I looked at him right between the eyes. I'm still talking to you, aren't I? That's exactly what I said to him. And that's exactly the way I feel. I don't have a lot of sense of humor for the people that are going to try and take this down. I don't. I will stop everybody from stopping this. Balance? Yep. Had somebody say to me a while back, before you even said it to me, you know, you got to have a balance. And I said this, and I meant it, and I still mean it, and I'll mean it for the rest of my life. I must build this foundation. I must get it going. I must get it together. And once I do, I'll rest. Start this week, guess what? I get to rest. There's enough people helping enough people that I can rest. And that is so cool. Because that was the dream. That was the goal. To get it to that point. And let me tell you, some days I went, are you fucking kidding me? Are these people ever going to get their head out of their asses? You know? Like, aren't they ever going to stand up and go, you know what, I'm tired of making the same mistakes I've always made? You know? Aren't they tired of listening to people that pull their energy away and take it with them and run and leave you sitting there going, oh, I'm feeling like crap today, you don't know why. And they got your friggin' energy? Yeah. Steal theirs. Get up in the morning and make a decision tomorrow to steal somebody's energy. You do it well. We had this conversation today about energy, right? And how energy works and how you can take energy, negative energy, really negative energy, turn it into positive, right? You don't like somebody? The best thing you can do is take their energy. If they're angry at you, take it, turn it into rain. Find somebody who's hurting. Get them to tell you the story and don't judge it. Don't tell them they're wrong. Don't tell them they're wrong for feeling the way they are. Biggest mistake that any type of counselor I've ever met in my entire life, the biggest mistake they ever made is telling you it's wrong for you to feel the way you do. How the fuck would he know, or she? Right? How do they know how you're feeling? How do they know where you've been? Wild moccasins thing? Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? If you didn't come down the road I walked, then don't fuck with me. Right? I'm looking at you. The bottom line is, you know what? I have no right to talk about who you are. I don't. Right? But you have every right to tell me who you are. But don't poke the bear. Right?
Oh, I like poking bears.
I was waiting for that.
Don't poke the bear.
No, I mean, you can if you want, but you will be the next person saying, are you kidding him? Yeah. God, I wish you had as much trim as I was used up. The bottom line is, you guys are all here for a reason. That's why I asked that question in the beginning, right? Now I'm going to give you the answer of why you're all here, right? My answer, right? There had to be something that you felt. Not that I'm any smarter than you, not that I'm any more intelligent than you are, but there's something you felt that was okay about what I was saying. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You just wouldn't. If you really, especially you, if you really thought, yeah, I'm picking on you. If you really thought that this guy's got his head up his ass and he doesn't think like me, right? You wouldn't be here. If you had no respect for me, you definitely wouldn't be here. Right? That's the way life is. But there's a reason you're here. Right? And the reason's clear. Nobody wants to feel bad. Nobody wants to continue to feel bad. Everybody wants to feel good. Can anybody say they don't want to feel good? Lie away. Everybody wants to feel good. But it's an easy way of feeling good. Because it's not about me helping you, or you, or you. It's about you guys helping each other. I just help and guide. Right? I don't know a lot. I don't. I'll be the first one to admit that I don't know a lot. I'm not highly educated. Had to throw that one in. I'm not as smart as you might think I is.
Best friends.
No, but the bottom line is, you guys are. Every one of you have something to offer. Everybody. And all of you have touched my life in some way. Don't even go there. Everybody has given me something in Medicine Hat when it comes to the people that are here.
Headaches count, right? Headaches count, right?
Yeah, headaches, yeah. She's definitely given me lots of headaches.
Ditto.
Whipped cream in the face, you name it.
You did that to yourself.
I did actually. But you took pictures.
Yep.
Yeah, those camera phones, we can bring them all up. I'll tell you, they're a dangerous thing. But we couldn't live without it, could we? Cell phones, media, crackbook, Instagram, all that stuff we couldn't live without it. Hell, I'm being recorded right now. Which could go good or bad.
The internet is a beautiful place.
Yeah, and you know what?
There you go, right?
I know without a shadow of a doubt, because my wonderful daughter is an internet junkie, that it will end up there. Which means what for me? It means that obviously somebody else is going to hear what I'm saying. And listen to me now. Really?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah, the only thing that would make it any better is if I could see myself on a screen there, so I can look at how good I really is.
We were recording it for a test release today because, like, my voice is sexy.
Very good, the test, yeah.
Yeah, gotta love his self-esteem.
Yeah.
That ego, eh?
that ego.
No, it's not ego, it's self-esteem.
Oh, you don't want to go with the ego thing. She'll set you straight on that.
arrogance, and it's not ego.
Because we could get the photo at Google. Couldn't we?
Been there, done that. That's why I say it's self-esteem.
It's not self-esteem either. It's self-worth. I'm worth something today. And I grew up in a family where I was worth nothing. The worth was all about working so they could protect an image that they had. Protecting an image is what your parents did, what my parents did, uncles, aunts, brothers, nephews, cousins. Everybody protects an image. Well, hate to disappoint you, but I see right through it. And that's what that man talked about years ago when he said to me, that medicine man said to me, I see things that you're not telling me. And that's what it is. That's a gift. I've got some gifts. People have experienced them. I like them. I felt comfortable with them. I used every friggin' one of them to get laid. Just thought I'd throw that in. I did. For years. It didn't matter. If I could look into your soul or into your mind and I thought, well, this girl wants me, guess what? That was easy. All the gifts I've had, I've used for bad. And then you have to get to a point where you crash one more time. And that happened to me this past winter, or last past fall, in November. Actually, this time of year. not too far down the road actually, where I fell, a stupid fall, hand in my jacket, looking for my keys. Listen to this. Walking across the road in Estevan, Saskatchewan, hit a groove, went down through 2 ribs up on top of my breastplate, and I was down for the count. Want to know what the funny part about that is? I was going to get a fucking McRib. When that was pointed out to me, it seemed pretty funny at the time when I was tears rolling down my face and they were laughing at me, not with me. It was a McRib fault, right? I like those things. But it changed my life. I'm going to close with this story because I think it's really important. Why am I in Medicine Hat again? I don't fucking know. Listen. Why did I come back here after not wanting to be here ever again? I fucking hated this place. The Timmy's Angels, all the people that are here, the backstabbing motherfuckers, I didn't want to have anything to do with it all. I did not want to come back here. When we ended up north there, in the wintertime, that was the last fucking place I was ever going to come again. I know what you're thinking. My son, he comes up, puts me back together. He may be a welder, but he's a pretty good guy with the old reflexology shit. Right? If you have something that's out of place, he will put it back in and he will cause you pain. He did today. For me already. But I can walk across the stage and I was having an awful hard time walking across the road here. Bottom line is I was there and I've been a truck driver for a long time. So I spent countless hours by myself. But one day, when I was in pain, I don't take medication for pain. I wonder why. I don't go and take codeine because that would be a good, right? I'm actually not on any medication at all now. I'm really proud of that. Haven't been for a while. Completely off it. So, I'm sitting there on my couch, not being able to move. That was a big one. Because every time I moved, Tyler, what happened? My ribs went right back up there. It's snowing. Everybody know where Clooney is? You know what the weather's like in Clooney in the wintertime? Get a knife. It's not good. Right? Snow, blow, every friggin' day. Every day. Alita was running back and forth to town. We were getting along real good at that point. Because I was in pain all the time. I was in more pain about what was happening in my life than anything else. I'd made some horrific mistakes that I look back and I say to myself, well, they weren't mistakes, they were real good learning experiences. Hope not everybody got hurt completely over them, because it just was. But here I am, thinking to myself, I'm screwed. I was right back. You could have took me to Pinoka and I'd have got off the truck. I didn't care anymore. But I wasn't coming back here. There was no fucking way I was coming back here. Well, day went after day, we ran out of money and everything was getting bad in the freaking snow and I couldn't go out and move it. And the retards where we were living didn't even have a snowblower and they'd lived there for 3 years and I was pissed about everything. And I did some studying on a couple different books when it comes to the mind and stuff like that. And there was something said in one of those books that went click. And that is that I control my own destiny. Not anybody else, not what you say, not what anybody else says. I control my own destiny. And there was a thought that came to my mind that was as strong as when we talked, right? That said to me, you need to get back to where you were when you left Pinoka. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good place. When I left there, I was crazy. Well, guess what? When I left Clooney to come here, I was crazy too. Just absolutely friggin' nuts. I hadn't been around people since November. I didn't want to see anybody at Tim Hortons. I don't know why. I just about had to get dragged down to Tim Hortons for the first time. Those friggin' retards could stay away from me for the rest of my life. I didn't want to be here to start with. But I knew there was opportunity to do this. but I was not in a shape to be able to do it. Physically, healthy-wise, everything else. When I first came back here, everybody was like, what the hell? Because I made it pretty clear. I didn't like people. Made it real clear. Still do. You know. But how many of you guys have had Tim Hortons today?
Just
You haven't had one? I'll get out.
Tonight, I did.
Oh, you did? So everybody's had Tim Hortons?
Just because it was here. Yeah, for some reason.
Oh, God, you're
But I
all
didn't
wow.
go in the store today or buy it or go pick it up.
You work at Tim Hortons, oh my
I
God.
don't know what you're talking about.
I don't work there.
That's all. That's all we're doing.
It's all her doing. Actually, it's Ted's reason that you're here. It's my fault you're here. But no, I didn't want to come back here. But I was sitting there one day thinking, if you can imagine, I never thought, thinking about how to set this up where it's going to work. How do I make this work in Medicine Hat? Because I knew out there, no, cleaning is not going to happen. There's not enough horses out there to get better. It just isn't. Right?
Worst thing.
I didn't even go there that time. Nay. What's anyhow,
I'm so glad I didn't do that
so anyhow, I'm sitting there. I remember when I was out at the thing when the guy said to me, "Look, I know something that you don't," and everything else like that. I got this voice. I'll call it a voice because I don't even have a name for it. They explained to me exactly what I had to do here, how I had to do it. And the one thing that came across, and it came across as clearly as ever, is that you're going to have to sacrifice absolutely everything to get it. However, really, what I didn't realize is how true that was going to be. What sacrifice? I sacrificed my own life, my career. Literally destroyed my trucking career to do this. Literally destroyed it. Because, hey, you pissed me off. You were in the rearview mirror of that truck every time. And it was made real clear that I couldn't do that again. I tried. I failed miserably. That guy was a dick and a half. I tried. Tried going back at it. Nothing worked. Tried to do other work. Tried to get a job. Never worked. So I thought, there are lots of times I'm able to do this. May as well put it together. Right? And then I met Judy. Yep. Met Judy. Well, Judy and I were standing there one night, and she made a big mistake that she will pay for the rest of her life.
Don't get too hard.
Huh?
Don't get too hard on yourself.
Because of my gifts and being able to look into somebody's eyes and see what they're not telling me, it's a bad fucking idea to have a scaring contest with me. It's bad. You don't do it. You're going to lose.
I didn't lose, I won.
Exactly. That's the point. But she tried to stare me down. She even tried to get that face on that she gets. It looks like she, the devil just possessed her. And I started to giggle. No, really started to giggle. And I looked at what was inside and I was like, oh my God. That's what he was talking about. And now it's got real easy to do that. Now I can look into somebody's eyes and not tell you exactly, you're going to put blue nail polish on the board. No. Not like that. I know there's a reason why I put you. Yeah. It's a behavior
You're
thing.
more of a red kind of guy.
Purple and pink.
I'll keep that in mind because Christmas is coming. Yeah.
I can show you a nice number he was wearing a couple months ago.
Yeah, now that's communication. So anyhow, I had to come here and I had to do it, and that's why I'm here. And I don't have any choice in the matter. I never thought I would ever be manipulated into doing something that was this great. But I was literally manipulated into it. because of the fact that I was given this in Pinoka, and then I abused it for as many years as I did in acting. And I took all the principles of cognitive therapy and before I put the behavioral stuff into it, and I used that against absolutely everybody. I made a shit ton of money. I became a millionaire twice, just by knowing what people were going to do. You use the business all the time now, right? If you know what the customer wants, as a mechanic, you can give them that, right? If you already know before they come through the door, would that work for you? But that's kind of the thing that happens with me. I'll look at somebody, I'll spend time with them, I'll look at them and I'll see right through that great big wall there. Right?
I just got the dirtiest look.
And I'll be able to see what you're not telling me. Right? So don't have a staring contest with me. Please don't. Unless you really want me to tell you exactly the way you're thinking. And it'll be a fact that that's the way to be. Because if you stare into my eyes and you give me a reason to call you a liar, I will. Right? That's poking bear about me. Yeah, that's what it is. When somebody who I'm working with, right, lies to my eyes, not my face, right away, what happens, girls? Guys? Wayne? Wayne's a pro. Yeah, Wayne's an absolute pro. But he's also one of the guys that came a long, long way in a short time. And I'm proud of that.
That's your work, bud.
What's that?
That's everything you've worked for.
Yeah, it's everything you hope for, right?
That's right.
It's got nothing to do with me. It doesn't.
That's everything you learned about a long time ago.
Good news is, you guys can do whatever you want from this time forward. Right from now, you can walk out that door, you can be the biggest asshole you ever wanted to be. I know better.
Don't give him, leeway to do that.
No, I know better.
I have to live with him.
I said he could be,
No, that's saying that he can be.
but he's only fooling himself.
Well, I know that, and you know that.
Now he knows that. Boy, I'd like to be a fly on the wall and take it home. I used to have a saying back when I was, living in healthy relationships: just keep your place a woman and shut up. Yeah. That's what that used to be my favorite saying. So,
Yeah, well, you're not going to try it now that we're living together. Right? It's not going to go very well if you try that shit.
everybody knows who Dr. Phil is, right? He's changed his things a little bit now. He says that past behavior, the way it used to be, it was past behavior dictates future behavior. True, except for the fact that a few years ago I said, well, it's not quite true. Because past behavior does not dictate future behavior. Past behavior dictates related future behavior. And he's changed that. Actually, we were watching it here about a month and a half ago. And I caught it and I went, oh, he just say that? Why didn't he call me a couple of years ago? Like, really? Because it's true. It's related behavior. Right? Past behavior with your relationships, your marriage, your friends, everything else will be identical with your next set of friends, your next husband, or whatever it is. Just kidding.
Thanks for the faith there, Paul.
No, it'll be exactly the same. Unless something happens. Unless you listen to something that was said. Right? Unless you do, I guarantee you it'll be exactly the same next time. That's why people that are in business go bankrupt. And then the next business they get goes bankrupt. And at any time they will tell you, I'm doing it the same as I've always done it. Why isn't it working?
That's insanity.
Huh?
That's insanity.
Glad you thought of that.
By definition. It's insanity.
Yeah, it's by definition. And you know how I am about definitions. Everybody else does. I'm huge in that. Right?
No, not that.
Keep
Oh,
your cell phone
pumpkin.
handy. Because he will tell you.
Oh, I know.
But I don't know nothing. Really. I'll be the first one to admit. Everything that I've got's been given to me. It is. It's been given to me. I in the back corner in the kitchen.
Lights on.
Lights on.
Lights on.
So go through the kitchen and
Yeah.
chair.
Can you find it now, or would you like some help? But anyhow, like I said, I invited people to come for one reason only. I can't do this. I am not going to do it myself anymore. Wait. Not. If you decide not to do what you've already got and give it to somebody else, I guarantee you where you're going to be. I'm a living proof. Living proof. Not going to babysit the people anymore. Foundation is laid. It's strong. It's getting stronger. The people that want this shit put the effort into getting it, don't they? Every one of you guys that's been involved in this from the beginning, right, has proven that to me. Everybody has the ability. Now, I'm going to say this because this one burnt me the worst. Absolutely burnt me the worst. Screwed up every relationship I've ever been in because I'm just that smart. Right? Because I know this stuff. You guys must listen to me. Right? If you try and do this with a spouse in a relationship, you will fail. If you try and do it with somebody that you're having sex with, male or female, they will fail. Sometimes both, right? It will fail. The only chance you've got of getting help for your partner is to put somebody in their path where they will get the help. I cannot help a partner, a sexual partner. I can't do it. Because why? I'm too close. I know the history of that person. I just went through it myself in my own life. I will not fix somebody that I'm sleeping with. Won't. Number one, they're not broken. I am. If I want to fix the person I'm with, I'm broken. Take that to the bank. If you got a problem with the person you're living with, Wayne, you're broken. We've been there, right? If you want to fix the person you're with, good luck. If you want to make her feel better, good luck. It pains me the type of pain I created in my life trying to fix the people I care about. That's why CBT groups work. Pick somebody. Every time we have a group now, we say pick a mentor. You did. Right? Just start doing that. Does it work?
It does.
Why does it work?
Just does.
I don't know it works. Because you're at that place right now with just starting this where you don't go.
Yeah.
Why does it work?
Why does it work?
Yep.
Because I can help her.
Why?
Why?
Unless you guys have sex with each other, you'll continue to be able to help them.
Nice.
I think we're good there.
But so true. You guys start sleeping with each other? Not only is it not going to work, I'm going to want to videotape.
Sit in the corner, Bill.
Pardon me?
Let me sit in the corner.
Nay, nay, nay.
Oh.
Not happening. Huh?
There's no video.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no video on purpose. But no, please do not try and help your spouse. Please do not. Find somebody in the group or somebody that does cognitive behavioral therapy or even just cognitive therapy and get them some professional help. Don't try it. I'm warning you. Been there, done that. It hurts like a son of a bitch.
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. It doesn't work. Also, best friends. If you have a best friend and you're unhealthy, when you become healthy, if you try and help that best friend, what happens?
Oh, I just can't. I just can't.
You can't. Will you try, Judy?
No.
Will you
That's why
try
I
before?
That's why I got Jade to go out. That's why I got you to meet Jade.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't help her.
But-
she needed it.
But we end up in a situation in the very beginning where Judy felt stronger, felt healthier, had done a lot of the actual therapy, right? And decided she was going to help somebody. How'd it work?
I didn't say I was gonna help Molly.
Don't poke the bear this sunrise. But no, it doesn't work. As soon as you've got that intimate feeling towards another person, good luck. Not gonna work. You wanna know why? Because you're that smart. And smart does not fix relationships. Oh, you get away with it. You're my son, I already know you do that shit. Right? You'll help the person you care about. Why? Because you want to help the people. Well, do yourself a favor. Find somebody else that's got what's going on. Because if you go and you help somebody like Shayla, never knowing Shayla ever before, you can help her a lot. But, right? If you go and you try and help her,
It's not gonna work.
shitstorm. Because it just doesn't work. Right? So, you have no friends, so you should be alright.
I was thinking about
Actually, I'm proud to call you my friend, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. I just lost respect for you very well.
You'll get over it. You're going to be a long time disrespectful. But no, really. You can't help the people you care about. And that's sad, because what do we always want to do?
people who care.
Well, first of all, we think that they're sick. Yeah. And then we try and help them because we're seeing it through our eyes, right? And our screens are kind of plugged when it comes to the years and years of horse shit we've had in relationships. So why would we even right? And if you happen to meet somebody who's healthy, look out. First of all, you pass on the street, you won't see it. But if you do happen to see one, it will cause a lot of problems for you. Because there's responsibility that goes with it. Right? A lot of responsibility goes with it. I've learned, even with the 3 months that I've been doing this, I've learned to be able to adjust to people doing what they're going to do because they're going to do it. As much as I go, are you fucking kidding me? Right? Really? As much as I've said that, it has to happen exactly the way it does. I can't get involved. Right? The only one I'm really in control of is who?
You.
Sorry. Me. I'm the only one. Right? And I'm doing okay today. So go back to Timmy's and tell everybody I'm doing just fine. And if you do, they'll say, you're asleep with me too. And you, and you, and you, and even you. But it's ridiculous. And the reason is they want to remain stealing your energy. They do. It's an absolute fact. How many times have we seen it in the last 3 months? Where it literally just takes the energy and just whips it right out.
Yeah.
Right? Don't let anybody violate you by taking your energy. We've all learned it. We've all learned from it. Right? Choice is yours. You want to be a part of it? I already told you. You're a part of it. You want to be a part of it? I already told you. Get out of the way and we'll be a part of it. You know, but everybody can be a part of it. Right? So, any questions?
Can I go for a smoke?
Any questions that make sense? Because of course I want to smoke too. But, does anybody have any questions at all? Because if you don't, we're done. Go smoke. That was easy. You sure did. Thanks for coming out and listening. There'll be a copy of this. My daughter will be making copies for people. If you want it?
Yep.
Huh? Yeah, I'm not gonna wear it. Oh,
Yes.
put on some weight.